Hey everybody, very excited to be driving the all new, brand spanking new 2022 Hyundai Ioniq 5. And this particular one is a limited with all-wheel drive. Now, the Ioniq 5 is what you could argue Hyundai's entry into the mainstream EV market. They've had the Kona and they've had the Ioniq EV before, but this really dives into not the EV as some niche special vehicle for a certain type of buyer, but a mainstream product with a wide variety of uses and potentially over 300 miles of range. To that end, this car is built on an all-new platform called EGMP, or Electric Global Modular Platform. And what that means is Hyundai plans on using this platform a lot on a lot of different products. And as if to put an exclamation point on that very topic, just as I received this car, Hyundai announced the Ioniq 6, which is a sedan, yet another path to going mainstream with battery electric vehicles. So there are 3 trims of Ioniq 5: SE, SEL, and Limited. But that really doesn't explain the breadth of what's being offered here, because there are also 2 battery pack sizes, 3 motor outputs, 3 power outputs, and you can choose between rear or all-wheel drive. And I'll dig into more of those details in just a moment, but just to give you a sense of what we're talking about, the base price for a base Ioniq SE standard range, it's called, is $41,245. The base price of a limited all-wheel drive is $56,295, and my test car has just a couple of options and costs $56,890. Couple important things to note about these prices. What I gave you was MSRP, which means this is before any federal or state incentives you might get for getting a battery electric vehicle. Also, you might not be able to get one of these yet because Hyundai is not selling them across the board to all 50 states just yet. Hyundai is ramping up who can sell the Ioniq 5, and that's getting down to the dealership level. You can currently get an Ioniq 5 in 38 of the 50 states right now, and that is ramping up as we go. Practically speaking, what that means is you just have to look and see if the Ioniq 5 is available at your local dealer or whatever if you have any interest. Okay, but with those basics in hand, let me go ahead, pull over, and show you around and inside the car. There's a couple of neat tricks. All right, everybody, let's take a closer look at this all-new 2022 Hyundai Ioniq 5. This electric SUV that looks a lot like a hatchback to me. Looking at the car from the front, it's got a very futuristic look. Of course, there's no grille to speak of, and it's got like these kind of like sunk-in headlights because you have this like horizontal beam just going across between the traditional hood and bumper, and you can see right at the base of the hood is that nice big loud and proud Hyundai logo. But if we look a little bit closer, you can see that we also have lots of sensors here, 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 and here, more up there, some more behind this tint back there. Check out these headlights. They are LED, of course, and you know, just kind of look like the future, wouldn't you say? Looking at the car in profile, you get more of that like hot hatch kind of look, even though it is called an SUV by Hyundai. And right now I'll go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen so you can see them. One that stands out to me is the wheelbase, and this is pretty common on electric cars, but we have an over 118-inch wheelbase here, and that is actually larger than the biggest Hyundai sold here, the Hyundai Palisade. The overhangs in the front and rear are very, very short. And while we're here, I'll go ahead and let you know that I have a full set of specs on the car in the description. A couple of details to point out though. First of all, the car is unlocked, so you can see the door hinges right here, but when you lock the car, the door hinges go flat like that, and the mirrors fold in as well. And you've got this cool character line that starts at the top of the front door, just scales back to the bottom of the rear door, and this different metal material right here with these ribs in it that look nice, because this is an all-wheel drive limited edition Ioniq 5. We roll on 20-inch wheels. The rest of the lineup rolls on 19s. Looking up, we do have this big and beautiful piece of glass right here that is of course translucent, and inside I'll show you the privacy panel as well. And in back, of course, we've got this big rear wing right here for much needed added downforce. And down here, of course, we don't have a fuel door, but we do have a port for the charger. And you open it with the key fob. It's electric, why not? Now, there is your standard charger right there. Pull this for the high-speed stuff right here. And you can see these different LED lights right here. That shows you charge status right from the portal. And Hyundai has something called vehicle to load, where you can plug in an adapter to the charge plug, and you can have a AC outlet come out of the car, and you can power a number of things off your car battery. I think that's a slick little setup there. Looking at the car from the back, the same futuristic kind of look continues. We have nice, very clear lettering here that says Ioniq 5. Hyundai just above that. H-Track is Hyundai's nomenclature for all-wheel drive. So that's what that is. And then we have these cool lights down low and this nice horizontal bar of light up above. You do get 27 cubic feet of storage behind the second row. You also have a charge port right there, and you have a bit of additional storage under the floor here, as you can see. But if 27 cubic feet isn't enough for you and you don't have extra people to carry, worry not. Because now you have 59 cubic feet of storage and space for you and a passenger. All right, let's check out those rear seats. This is not a terribly large car, and yet you do have quite a bit of space here, and you have a couple of neat tricks. First of all, the seat back is adjustable. You can adjust the angle of the seat back as well. And because this is a limited, we have AC power right here. Just slide this and you can charge laptop, smartphone, whatever. I am 5'11" or 181 centimeters tall, and I have ample amounts of leg room, and the seat bottom is pretty high as well, so I have decent thigh support too. Each of your outbound passengers gets a charger to choose from right here and some space below that. And actually, this whole center console, this lower portion, actually moves back and forth, so if you want, you can access some of this stuff as well. And when I get to the front seat, I will show you that. Here is a view of the beautiful big old piece of glass we have here, and extends all the way to the back of the passenger space. And if you don't have 3 people, oh yeah, armrest and cup holders, what luxury. All right, let's check out that front seat. One of the things about this interior that Hyundai claims is that it is made from what they call eco-friendly, sustainable source materials. And when they say that, they're talking about things like the seats, the headliner, the door trim, the floor, and the armrest as well. And when they say eco-friendly, sustainably sourced, they mean that they use recycled plastic bottles or natural wool or plant-based wool and what they call a bio paint. What all of that really means in terms of true environmental impact, you'd have to ask an expert, of which I definitely am not. But I definitely think it has like a cool, funky look that is consistent with the rest of this car. You do, of course, have power windows, power locks, all that kind of stuff. It's auto up down for both the driver and passenger. And you do have 2-position seat memory. And you actually have lots of adjustment on your front seats as well, including extra thigh support, which is always a fun one. Takes a moment, but there it is, going, going, going. You also have lumbar support and all those other fun tricks. A few buttons over here: auto hold, electric park brake, traction and stability control on off, and this is how you can open the tailgate. You do have tilt and telescoping steering. It is manually adjusted right there. EV start stop. You're looking at 2 12-inch screens, one for the digital instrument cluster and a second for the center console touchscreen. Both are just over 12 inches, and this Limited also has this high-end head-up display right there. The steering wheel itself does have lots of controls on it. You have your adaptive cruise control right here and some other buttons right here. You do get 3 drive modes. You get Eco, Normal, and Sport, but you also have, in many ways, multiple drive modes because you have paddle shifters here and here, and this doesn't affect gears because it's just a single speed drive down electric motor. But what this does is affect brake regen when you lift off the throttle. So you have 5 levels of that. You have 0, which is just like coasting down, but then level 1, 2, and 3 all giving you gradually more levels of deceleration as you lift off the throttle. Then you have something called I-pedal. And what I-pedal does is give you the most deceleration when you lift off the throttle, and it will bring the car to a complete stop. So with I-pedal, you truly can drive the Ioniq 5 with just one pedal. And just behind the steering wheel down low, we have what is the Prindle. Put your foot on the brake, you actually turn this dial here forward to put it in drive, or towards you to put it in reverse, and there is a button right here to put it in park. Okay, so I mentioned that this center console can move fore and aft 5.5 inches, so I've just kind of got the camera set on the floor. I'll move it just a little closer and show you. This handle right here, lift this up and it'll slide back and forth 5.5 inches, Hyundai claims. So if you have it all the way forward, it's easiest for the front passengers to use, all the way back, and it gives the rear passengers some access as well. Since we're looking at it, it also has a couple of cup holders, and beneath that you have another USB port, another one right there, and Qi wireless charging. The pad for it is right there. Then you've got more storage here, more storage down low, and more storage back here. You do have an entirely flat floor because you have no half shafts or drive shafts to worry about, and you do have additional storage down here, another USB port right there, and another standard cigarette lighter style plug right there. Looking up, we do have dual zone climate control, and in addition to having a 12-inch screen with a lot of different stuff that is easy to use, easy to slide around, you do of course have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This being a limited model, we also have heated and ventilated seats, which is a nice touch. Also, heated steering wheel. Looking up, here's the view of that big beautiful piece of glass from the front seat, and you can open and close it with this button right here. And it's nice because even though it's a big piece of glass, it actually closes from both sides, clamshell style, so it doesn't take that long to close. Really nice in here. All right, let's get back to the drive. All right, let's talk more about this powertrain. First and foremost, the battery pack. There are 2 battery packs, as I said. You can have either a 58 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is the standard range battery pack, or a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack, the extended range battery pack. Only one trim gets the smaller battery pack, that is the SE standard range, and in that car you also get a special lower horsepower electric motor that goes to the rear axle. You get 168 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque, and you get 220 miles of range. So all the other trims and powertrains, everything else, get that 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. And if you get the rear wheel drive version of the car, you get 225 horsepower, still 258 pound-feet of torque, and 303 miles of range. That's an impressive number because that's not even that big of a battery pack. But if you go all-wheel drive, you get an additional electric motor up front to power the front axle, and you get a combined 320 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque, but the range does drop to 256 miles. But there's some really interesting tricks with this powertrain, or this power unit, or whatever you want to call this system. The battery pack can handle 400 or 800 volt systems, so that means that the Ioniq 5 can be charged at up to 350 kilowatts, which Hyundai claims can bring you from a 10% to 80% charge in just 18 minutes, which is right up there with the fastest things out there, like Porsche Taycan and everything else. If you're plugged into a regular level 2 charger, it's going to take a little bit less than 7 hours to go from nothing to a complete charge, but that's not bad considering everything. And still talking about charging, this is a neat feature. Hyundai is offering 2 years of free 30-minute charging at Electrify America stations. And another big part of battery packs is charging, and that includes charging under braking. As I showed you, this has that clever 5-level system, level 0, 1, 2, and 3, and then iPedal. So that's getting recharged just by lifting off the throttle as opposed to touching the brakes and having the integrated brake system do the work there. And it takes a little bit of getting used to, but I find it really nice to have one analog motion control both the acceleration and deceleration of a car, and you can really get smooth launches and speed up and slow down when you start to master it, and I think that's super cool. All told, this Ioniq 5 does get 110 miles per gallon equivalent in the city, 87 on the highway, and 98 combined. Those numbers don't mean as much as an electric vehicle, just in general consumer thinking. You know, you're much more concerned about range, but that's important to think about because we are still talking about power usage and where that power comes from and how much that power costs. When you go to Electrify America, it won't cost as much when you want to do a fast recharge, same for recharging at home, etc., etc. But important doesn't mean fun. It's way more fun to see how quickly this EV from Hyundai accelerates, and of course I had to test that. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. I do have the car in its sport driving mode, and I also have the traction control and stability control off. Let's see how it goes. Coming to a complete stop. Brake torque. There's nothing to do with that though, and off we go. Oh man, wow. So we have 4-wheel drive, so there is no loss of grip at all, and then just that immediate shock of torque just shoves you right back into the seat. That's impressive. And man, yeah, this thing hustles pretty darn fast, and it's so smooth and steady. You're just like surging through and building up speed with this like linearity of force that is just completely unheard of in a gasoline engine car. It's actually very stout acceleration. I love the instantaneous torque you get from electric motors and the super lightning quick immediate reactions you get from the throttle. Hyundai claims 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds for this top limited all-wheel drive model, and I have no reason to argue with them. And they say that every single Ioniq can go 115 miles an hour if you keep your foot in it. But of course, there's going to be times that you enter corners and you have to get through those corners. And, you know, it's nice to know how well it feels, how stable it feels, and if it's any fun. I had to test that out as well. Let me show you how this car handles. All right, everybody, time for a handling test. I do have the Ioniq 5 in sport driving mode, and I have both the traction and the stability control off. Let's see how it goes. Good instant torque from those engines. Woo! All right, let's see what grip is like. Not that much. Balance isn't bad though. You know, it came out of the corner well. I didn't have to put in a lot of steering lock. Oh, fair amount of body roll, but not too bad really. Yeah, I mean, grip from these low rolling resistance tires is pretty low, but body control is actually pretty okay. Now, the steering is pretty fast, but the feel, there's a lot of assistance here, so you don't have much feel. It's not as easy to be precise with this steering. It's kind of got that like elastic-y kind of feel, a little joystick-like. So this is not a one with the car, feeling the road kind of machine, but it is entirely competent at going through some corners. I have to say I'm a little bit pleasantly surprised. I was kind of coming into this with low expectations, but from the right point of view, you know, it's totally competent and it's totally safe, and that was with everything off, traction, stability control off, a nice big heavy battery, nice and low to the floor, really low center of gravity, all of that helps. So yeah, generally pretty good. All right, but let's get into a little bit more of the standard use case for this Ioniq 5, ride comfort and how it goes on the highway. I'm here to tell you that it rides perfectly pleasantly. The fact that you have that big battery pack down low gives you this real nice low center of gravity. That's nice for handling, but it also makes it easier for this car to feel stable in all conditions. And of course, super smooth, very quiet electric motors make the experience generally pleasant, and that's true on roads like this or on the interstate. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for a stint on the interstate. I do have plenty of battery charge, and I do also have a lot of advanced driving aid, safety features, yada, 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 but I'm mostly curious to see how quiet and peaceful and comfortable this thing is on the road. So let's check it out. Okay, we've got cruise control set with traffic right around 80 miles an hour, and engine noise is very, very good because there's no engine. Wind noise, which is a pet peeve on electric cars because there's no engine noise to block it out. It's always so much easier to hear it. Pretty darn good here. You know, you can hear wind whistling around here and there, but it's definitely faint, off in the distance, really, really well controlled. Road noise, you know, this class isn't terribly thick or anything like that, so a fair amount of road noise is getting through, but it's certainly competitive with other cars this size in this class. We've got a pleasant ride here. You know, it's absorbing bumps and heaves in the road just fine, so this is very pleasant to go down the road. This does have a lane keep, you know, keep the steering center, do some driving for you assist. Yeah, and it's not bad. You know, it's bouncing around a little bit. It's not among the best I've ever tried, but it's certainly competent. Just got to worry to put my hands on the wheel. It's not the kind of system that puts you perfectly center in the lane, but generally speaking, this has a nice big battery with plenty of range. I've got heated and cooled seats. I've got this frankly beautiful center console touchscreen to use and look at with a lot of options. That's really easy to use. The fully digital instrument cluster is the same, very easy to read, very easy to use. As long as you have a good setup in terms of, like, you know, where you're going to charge and those kinds of things, this is a fantastic car to drive on the interstate. I quite like it. Of course, this is a brand new car, brand new platform, brand new concept almost. So of course, this car is going to have a whole bunch of modern safety systems. Hyundai calls it Smart Sense, and it includes a slew of stuff. I'll go ahead and put that list on the screen right now so you can get a sense of what it is. Generally speaking, you saw me using the adaptive cruise control and the lane centering a little bit on the interstate. It works well. And yes, Hyundai does call this an SUV, and you know, it's kind of debatable in terms of like look and like what you conceptually think of as an SUV, but if they're going to call it that, you might want to tow with it. And in fact, Hyundai claims that you can tow up to 1,650 pounds. Now, that's not a ton, but that is a small boat or definitely a jet ski or a snowmobile, a couple of motocross bikes, small utility trailer, those kinds of things. And especially if you go with the rear-wheel drive model, I think you've got enough range to get a lot of places. Put it all together, and what do we have? I mean, really, this is our future. This is what we're looking at here, and not too expensive, especially when you include the incentives that you potentially get. Practical, spacious, very wide, long wheelbase, short overhang SUV that quietly and comfortably carries people without burning any fuel. All the momentum is going this way, and Hyundai is definitely jumped in head first to this. And what I am really, more than anything, relieved to say is the future's not bad. In fact, it's pretty bright. Yes, there are some emotional things I miss about not having an internal combustion engine. I love the sound of internal combustion engines, especially specific configurations of internal combustion engines. But just practically speaking, in terms of smoothness of operation and immediacy of response, electric motors are really, really good at propelling cars down the road. And as engineers get better and better at figuring out battery technology, and we increase range, and as we increase range, we increase infrastructure, it's less and less of a hassle. And You put that together with all the different technology you get, all the extra space you get, the flat floor, the adjustable center console, all the space in back. Yeah, there's just really a lot to like here. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I would really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Those things really do help me out a lot. Okay, goodbye. All right, I got less than 5 seconds. Let's go. Huh. So smooth.